I think they're all cults. I do too. I think the universities themselves are cults. It wouldn't be enough to get rid of the secret societies. The universities themselves, look at what kind of comes out of there. They're menace to society. Lawyers, they just have higher education. They go on to destroy our Constitution. These are the same damn people that wanted to destroy the middle class, had no problem doing it because they have all their money. Stay home. Don't get the rest of us sick. It's like, but they're always been snobs. They don't have good, they're not polite. They're rude, and most of the time, a lot of this is really your white. This is one time I would say where especially these the universities in general are very racist, and their history goes back to being racist again, and it's the rich white man. I hate to say that because of the bullshit that's going on right now, because the very medical associations that all came from fraternities, I might add, they were alumni, want to carry on about how America's racist. No, you people came from the universities that's where you all were racist, because you came from wealthy families. Wealthy families became you were a menace going into the universities, then your worst menace when you came out because you had all that higher education, and you've done nothing but destroy America. I think the universities are in and of themselves a cult. And there's been many articles like this written, but people should understand how dark and depraved the universities are. And literally think about it. The universities is where our Congress holds our documents, our most sacred documents, the scientific discoveries that they never tell us about. It's in all the universities, right? So that's another reason. They are a danger to America, these universities. In 1863, and by the way, it's probably mentioned in here, in 1800, the school paper for Yale wrote that Skull and Bones was controlling the campus. So, but I don't, even if you could, and they never can get rid of the fraternities, even if you could, it wouldn't matter. The universities are just depraved, unclassy, and gross. This is out of Time magazine. In 1863, the third president of Amherst asked his fellow college presidents what they thought of this new thing called a fraternity. The overwhelming consensus was alarm. They described fraternities as a plague and un-American. They sow dissensions and produce factions. They have led to greater unkindness and ill feeling than almost everything else in the college. Nothing but evil results. Young rich men invented social fraternities to isolate themselves from their middle-class peers, thumb their noses at the religious values of their professors, and wrestle control away from the administration who sets their schedule, curriculum, and objectives. They came to prominence during a period of widespread and largely forgotten campus violence, at a time when militias were commonly called in to tamp down riots led by students armed with pistols and flames. The young rich men to whom fraternities appealed were nothing short of a menace. So they were a menace from the beginning, then they get out with that higher education and look at what they do to they're still a menace. Until the mid-1800s, and in some cases until the turn of the century, university presidents tried valiantly to close fraternities down. Brown, Princeton, and Union, for example, banned secret societies and expelled students who attended unauthorized meetings. Their efforts would fail. Fraternity men consolidated power by placing their own members in every conceivable position of authority on campus. Describing the 1860s, a Yale graduate, that fraternity men were said to manage the entire system of college politics. A 1900 account from Northwestern, not a surprise, reports that fraternity men conspired to ensure that they only received scholarship, leadership positions, and awards. Doesn't surprise me. I worked for a Northwestern hospital. It's not like the people at the top of their hospital is ethical. They're just liars. Let's see. In their free time, fraternity men entertained themselves the same way they do today, with parties that bordered on perilous. Fraternity men invented the prototypical college party that we now associate with higher education more generally. It isn't enough to have a good time. They want their partying to smack of revolt. Hence, the latest in a long sad saga of young people gravely injured or killed at or after fraternity parties. Timothy Piazza, 19 years old, a pledge at Penn State's Beta Theta Pi, fell twice down the stairs after being instructed to drink what a forensic pathologist called a life-threatening amount of alcohol. Surveillance footage shows brothers carrying him, turning him over, pouring liquid on his face and slapping him. Massive bruises blooms on his torso. They put a backpack on him to make sure he lies on his side and doesn't choke on his own vomit. Someone Snapchat his lifeless body. At 10:48 a.m. the next day, 12 hours and 1 minute after he first appeared unconscious on film, they call 911. Only then did they spring into action, concocting a plan to destroy and withhold evidence. Now, 18 of the Beta Theta Pi fraternity brothers and the fraternity itself are facing 850 criminal charges. 850 criminal charges, including involuntary manslaughter. Yeah, there's the higher educated for you. In the aftermath of Piazza's death, Penn State's president wrote a heart-wrenching open letter. He detailed the facts about Greek life, excessive drinking, high rates of sexual assault, hazardous initiation rites, and fatal accidents. He also listed the well-intended and genuine efforts by Penn State to change Greek culture, efforts that don't seem to be working, and wondered if the right answer isn't abolish. Let me be clear, abolish is the only answer. That wouldn't even be, you have to abolish all the universities. All social fraternities, alongside the sycophantic sorority life that they exploit, must go. They must go permanently and forever at Penn State and everywhere else. Reform is simply not possible. In fact, Beta Theta Pi was a reformed fraternity. It was considered, in fact, a model fraternity, one that reflected a national perspective on best practices. Well, that explains why we have the Association of Nursing that is has no ethical morals at all. They're all an alumni. All of these associations are. They of course, that's why they don't have any moral compass. It had strict behavioral guidelines, being a non-alcoholic policy, live in adult supervision, and video surveillance. But the investigation discovered that the fraternity engaged in sexually humiliating hazing and regularly threw parties with alcohol, where alcohol was served, spending $1,200 on booze in the days before the fateful party. Beta Theta Pi defied Penn State's efforts at reform, revolted even and at the cost of Piazza his life. Reform is not possible because the old line, historically white social fraternities, I would agree with that, have been synonymous with risk-taking and defiance from their very inception. They are a brotherhood born in mutiny and forged in the fire of rebellion. These fraternities have drink, danger, and debauchery in their blood, right alongside secrecy and self-protection. They cannot reform. No, they're just psychopaths. They just come out with higher education. To capitulate to the reasonable demands of the outsider would be to fundamentally change their culture, their role on campus, their reason for existing. Avoiding risk and obeying common sense safety guidelines would undermine their fundamental character, the specific nature of their identity that is most vital to who they are. Becoming kinder, safer places would do such violence to their legacy that it would mean altering their organizations beyond recognition. It's impossible. They say their face is a testament to the power of fraternity. Fraternities may no longer decide who's in the yearbook, but they still exert control. The proof is in the knee-jerk insistence that they are too formidable to fight. Yeah, they're a disgrace. Yet that's what's held up in this country as something to trust that we call experts. No, they're all people with no moral compass. I rarely see, especially in my own profession, not saying that I don't see nurses with good moral compasses, but all these higher educated ones that set the profession and decide everything they always do is depraved.